how do I put it, in your own findings. So you might be researching the market yourself in terms of property. We want to share those tools that we use. So you'll get to learn how to do it for yourself. So Mary Christogala will be our headline speaker, and we're also joined by Pauline Ryan from Loanworks. She's an amazing person. I recently met Pauline, and yeah, so with her and where she comes into the fold, I had a really awesome chat with her, and I just came to find that the quality of information that she's got, and in terms of the depth of content that she's got in her experience, has really been able to translate into how we can help our clients moving forward. So a few of you guys on here are mortgage brokers. Pauline is the director of Loanworks, and she also is the founding director of Mr. Mentor, which is a mentoring program specifically for mortgage brokers. So there'll be opportunity there for her to be able to, oh, hang on, just got a few more people going on, great. For her to be able to present a little bit about what's happening out there at the moment, how to get yourself financially fit. And so there's a lot of information that we find really important. So in about, well, give it another minute, we'll have our last stragglers just coming through. Pretty big turnout, guys. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate that. You guys want to give me a bit of a wave? Say hi. Okay, Luke. Hey, John. Neil, great to see you there. Michael. All right, so we're just about to begin our presentation. So look, throughout, I want to be able to see you guys on video, but my preference would be if you're able to click at the top right where it says speaker view. That'll then mean that if you're tuned into the person who's speaking, but I want to be able to see you guys. Now, at times, if you do have questions, if you want to be able to, I guess, contribute, absolutely, chuck it into the chat box. Let us know what you're thinking. Then in the Q&A session, there'll be a good 15, 20 minutes, maybe half an hour, depending on how many questions you guys have got, that we're here to help you guys and girls in terms of being able to help you really connect the dots here. We are going to be running these more frequently. I found this process of getting this all together really enjoyable, just connecting with people just to put it all on. A few new faces and definitely a lot of faces we've seen before. And I'll just letting you know, we will be doing this every fortnight if we can. But yeah, it's great to connect with you here. So I'll be throwing it over to Mary Christogala, who is the Abundance Property Amazing Director. Without her input, none of this would have come together. She's basically brought everything into the fold. I'm her partner, a very fortunate partner in life and also in this business. We've gone through challenges, but we've also had some awesome highs as well. So we're here to share this information with you all. Can't wait to see the reaction of you all, to be able to see the combination of our work of what we've been able to do over a period of time. So if you can join me in giving Mary Chris a welcome round of applause.
I'll unmute myself. Everybody can hear me. 2 thumbs up. Great. Great. This is so I still can't get over the fact that we can connect with so many people on Zoom. Zoom's still blowing my mind post-COVID. Well, it's not even post-COVID, but like post-lockdown. So it's great to see all of your faces on here, and I'm really privileged to be able to give you some kind of information, some kind of navigation from all of the research that we've collected as a company throughout the last couple of weeks, and also throughout the last few years too. So in my own investment property journey, in my property journey, and be able to add value and give that information back to you guys. So I'm gonna switch on to, I'm gonna give you a bit of a update of what I'm gonna go through today. So just on the grand scheme of things, I'm gonna, because it is such a big topic with COVID going on and what the economy is going to do once we reopen fully again, and what does unemployment, there's so much talk about it in the media, property prices dropping 50%, things like that. There's all this fear in the market, and we're going to touch on that. We're going to also touch on the stimulus packages and what it looks like will be happening in July 1st when the new financial year turns around. So we'll talk about that. Plus, we'll also talk about some kind of tools and techniques as an investor. If you are an investor, if you've got clients that are investors, or just tools that we can offer to you to how we actually look at property and look at different areas, how we research good property so that we can get the maximum growth from that property, the maximum return of investment. So that's a little bit of a snippet of what I'm going to do. So for now, I'm going to ask Boris to jump to put the slides up so that we can get straight into it. Is that working?
It will be. So I'm just going to share my screen. Give me a second.
So like Boris said, we run these information sessions. We normally run them live. This is the first time we're doing it on webinar version. We run them every couple of months to our clients to really just give information so that people aren't purchasing property just based on one, emotion, and two, somebody else's strategy. So we want to really understand what you want to do with property. Just because property sounds like a good idea, we've got this, as Australians, we've got this amazing love affair with property that everybody thinks it's a great idea, and it is a great idea, but it needs to work for you, and it needs to work for your primary goal. And a lot of people miss that. A lot of people just say, well, I'm going to buy property because my friends are doing it, or it sounds like a good idea, but the reason behind it isn't actually explained on a one-on-one basis or just layman's terms. So constantly, every day, we're talking to clients. I'm talking to clients that, one, don't understand tax, don't understand why property prices go up, just the basic economics. So we do try to add value to our clients and explain it in layman's terms, so you can make an informed decision when you are purchasing a property. So I'm just going to ask Boris to go to the next slide. So right now, what's the current state of the property market, trends, and what the future holds? So that's what our first topic will be. And what I have seen in the last, say, week, 2 weeks, is that this pandemic has had phases to the economy. So what happened at the start of the year, everyone was super excited. 2020, it was this whole 2020 vision. The economy was going good. The property market was looking like it was going to increase this year. This is prior to COVID. The government was actually looking at a surplus at the end of the year. So things were going really good, and there was a lot of good predictions for 2020. We had no idea what was going to happen just 2 months later. So then obviously the first phase was March hit, and we had no idea that COVID was going to happen, even though there was talk about it in China back, I think it had started in October 2019. We had no idea that this would be our new normal. So March hit, and then we had a lot of uncertainty come into the market, a lot of fear. So we weren't actually planning for this to happen. So toilet paper obviously ran out. A lot of memes started coming up online that were quite funny, but really real, and fear started injecting into our society. So how the property market got affected by that is obviously OFI, open for inspections, were closed down. Businesses were closed down. So even if you had your property on the market, you couldn't actually sell it because it was harder to sell because you couldn't get people, a lot of people into a house because there was all this fear that was creeping up in our society. And the prediction was that who knows what's going to happen with this virus? Is it going to blow up? Is this pandemic going to actually kill so many people? So people, when they are fearful, they naturally don't move. They don't actually do anything. Banks were scared also. It wasn't just people. And we actually heard of a lot of situations where unconditional approvals had been passed, and the bank found out that that particular person lost their job during because of COVID, and they actually stopped stopped the settlement going through. So there was a lot of fear, especially in that first 1-2 weeks of the lockdown, when the federal government announced it. When that happened, there was a huge amount of fear. And we didn't know how long it was going to last. That was the main point. Obviously, banks put mortgages on hold for up to 6 months to help people cope with either being stood down or laid off. And then the government actually released JobKeeper and JobSeeker. Obviously, we all know that, and that is a short-term fix to the bigger picture of what's going to happen in the next, say, 2 to 5 years. But like we all know, property is a long-term game, and we are going to have ups and downs, but it's about riding these up and down waves and not selling when the property price market is low. So there has been a bit of a downturn in rent since then. So in terms of the vacancy rates have gone up a little bit. But what I feel like that the reason for that is a lot of properties are starting to become available, like Airbnbs are starting to become available. And that's why there's been an increase. People have obviously started moving maybe back home to their parents because they can't afford rent. So there has been a shift in our vacancy rates. But what we can expect. So September will be the next phase. So we'll just go back one slide, Boris, thanks. So September will be the next phase of this, because now we are out of the full lockdown. With the numbers are really low, things are looking positive, and I don't know about you guys if you've gone to restaurants in the last couple of days. Now that the shutdown has been lifted here in Victoria, it's still in a phase, but now that it has been lifted, there has been a lot more confidence come back on the market. And even though there was that closure and people weren't doing a lot of stuff, we were still finding that a lot of people were maximizing the fact that they have there's property prices that are already dropping a little bit because of that fear that's coming around, because of the fear from the whole of society. So there wasn't actually a stop in sales. There was a little bit of an easing, but not a full pause. So that's what we saw. So looking forward, in terms of the aftermath, what can we expect from this whole situation? When September comes along and the job seeker is lifted, we're thinking that it'll be lifted, but who knows? The government might decide to reinstate it for another 6 months, but they will start to put different incentives for people to actually utilize the government money to start getting the economy rolling again. So what happened back in 2008? So Boris, just the next slide, thanks. One back. Yep, that's the one, well done. So the last time that this happened where there was a lot of fear in the market was the GFC, so the global financial crisis back in 2008, 2010. And as much as we did sort of feel it, this is the thing about Australia, and this is why I'm always so thankful that we live here, because it's great. But in 2008, 2010, we felt it, but we didn't feel it compared to the rest of the world. And the same goes with this new issue that's come up with 2020 with COVID. We have felt it. Obviously there's deaths and it's super sad. We have lost jobs, people have lost jobs, but we're not feeling it to the same extent as overseas. So back in 2008, 2010, a short case study of what actually happened in the marketplace for property prices is 2008, 2010, people started freaking out, started selling properties at a cheaper rate. They didn't know what was going to happen to the economy, the world economy, and the Australian economy. 2011, a lot of people started coming back into the market. I know for myself, I bought 3 properties in 2011, all in like a span of 3 months. Interest rates were low at the time, so there was a lot more consumer confidence coming back into the market. And then it was really interesting in 2012 to 2017, which 2017 was the peak of the market, which is the highest that the market went in that time frame. Melbourne actually grew 79% and Sydney grew 58%. So in Melbourne, it nearly doubled in 5 years. So it didn't take 7 years. It didn't take that 10-year period that they always say. It doubled in that 5 years. And this is because a lot of prices, at the end of the day, people still need to live in houses, and migration is a big business, if you want to call it that, in Australia. So we did accept a lot of people into Australia, and they do need to live in houses. And that will start showing again in the next year, that people will start coming back into Australia, and the travel restrictions will ease a lot more too. So we will start seeing something similar that happened back in the GFC happen after COVID too. So just on the next slide, we're just going to touch on capital growth and how capital growth actually occurs, just really simplified. So just on this next slide, Boris. Thank you. So, yep, great, thanks. So this is a graph that I've pulled up, and I'm just going to move my little thing here so I can see it too. So this is basically 1880 to 2010, and the growth that Australia has had, well, the major city, Melbourne and Sydney. So the red, the red diagram, the red line is Melbourne's growth in property prices, and the black is Sydney. So that actually hasn't even shown the last 10 years, which we had a huge growth in the last 10 years. But it shows that there's consistent growth. You are going to get some drops, but effectively it just grows. And it is really important to know when to sell and when to buy. And obviously you're not going to be you're not going to be selling in the drop, because you're not going to get that return, but you do want to pinpoint that time to buy when it does drop, when the market is at its lowest that it could be. Just the next slide, thanks. So there's a lot of talk about the property prices. Oh, Boris is just showing up behind me. And then oh look, he came back in, so that's the magic of technology. But so yes, so there's a lot of talk about the property prices going down 50 to 40%, and there's a lot of fear in the marketplace. And as much as people think that is reality, just looking at this graph, it just seems so ridiculous. So what they're actually effectively saying is, if there's a property that's worth 900,000, which is the medium house price of Melbourne right now, it's going to be worth 450,000. Look, if it does go that much, like, sign me up for 10, because that would be awesome. But it just doesn't seem realistic to our economy, because at the end of the day, people aren't going to sell at that price. It's not going to get that desperate for them to cut off 50% off the price. There will be a bit of a drop. It's just natural for something like this big to happen in our society. There has to be a drop, but we're predicting more of a 5 to 15% drop in property prices in the major cities. That sounds more realistic, and that will happen, from now till maybe the next 12 months. We predict that will happen, where there'll be a 5 to 10% drop in property prices. But just like the GFC, when there's that little bit of a drop, people start getting excited and buyers start getting excited. First home buyers start getting excited, investors, and they start thinking, I can pick up a bargain. There's an influx of people that come into the market. And when there's an influx of people that come into the market, that increases demand and people start bidding higher. So that's why there's that trend of up and down, because it's all about like society's mindset and how people are governed really by the media. So the media's released this thing last week where they've said that there's going to be a 50,000 stimulus. The amount of inquiries and questions that we're getting about this, it has been crazy. So a lot of people that weren't even thinking that they would be in a position to purchase a property are starting to think, actually now maybe I can with these stimulus packages. And a lot of people that had no way of getting into the market will start thinking that they can when the government releases these stimulus packages in the next 12 months. So just back on to the next slide. So this is just the population of Australia since 1919. It shows that it just keeps on growing. We're relatively a very large country. We've got a lot of resources in terms of what's in the ground even. We've got so much resources. We're a really wealthy country, so we can allow people to come in. And if we allow people to come in, especially in the major cities, they're going to flock. We're just a country that likes to flock to the major cities. That's how our society has been built up. Especially in the major cities, it's hard to go wrong, especially say Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. Perth is starting to look like it's going up again too. It's going good. Again, they've had a really long drought of property increase, but the vacancy rates there are actually low. And Perth is the only city in Australia right now that the property prices are actually positively geared. So you're not actually they're not negatively geared, so it means that the rent is matching mortgage prices, mortgage repayments. So we're going to see a lot more people coming into the Perth marketplace too. So just the next slide. So now that restrictions have eased, we'll just talk a little bit about that. I actually have been talking to a few colleagues that are in the established real estate sector, and also I have been watching a lot of podcasts and reading a lot of articles, and we're seeing that new listings have actually increased just in the last week. So that's another key point to the fact that there's a lot more confidence coming back into the market, that people are starting to list their houses again, because now people can actually come to an open for inspection. Even if it's limited in numbers, they are still able to see the house. So during COVID, there was actually a 50% drop to new listings during the closures, but in just 1 week, that's already increased to only 25% drop before COVID. So who knows what will happen again when restrictions are lifted to the next phase. We're just going to get more confidence in society. So, and that's what that means. The consumer confidence, just back one, thanks, Boris. Just the consumer confidence is going to increase. So we are moving out of the shutdown phase. There's already a different vibe, and I was feeling the vibe was different even just 1 or 2 weeks before the shutdown was actually released. A lot more people were outside in parks. I think they're just over it, and they want to get on with their lives. So there is even though that happened, there was still a lot of seller and buyer activity during the shutdown, but now that's just going to increase as the restrictions ease. The interesting thing that I did notice too during the whole shutdown is rents actually haven't changed. The rents are still the same. So that just shows, maybe that's to do with the fact that there's a lot of laws that are coming out now that you can't actually kick tenants out. So there's no huge supply and demand. But that is interesting that hasn't changed. And right now, unemployment isn't like it's an issue, but it could become a bigger issue in September once that job seeker has finished. But it is up to the government to fix that. I mean, Australia at the end of the day is a business. Unemployment obviously means that there's less income tax that come into the government. So they do need to stimulate the economy somehow. And if there is a high increase of unemployment, obviously welfare increases, and they do have to spend it anyway. So that's why it is up to the government can only take care of us during this time. So just the next slide, thanks, Boris. So stimulus packages that have been talked about during this last weekend or two, we'll just touch on them. So I have a feeling, and I've been reading up on this, that the job keeper might come back for another 6 months. That's my prediction. I guess we'll see in September what happens in the economy and how the travel bans have shifted, because the travel industry is still a very big industry in Australia. So I guess every dollar that the government gives out with JobKeeper, they get half of it back anyway with income tax and GST. So they might, for that reason alone, they might increase it for another 6 months. Now, the other stimulus packages that have been talked about during this last week is who will get a rebate to purchase a home. So there was a really big one, like I mentioned before, that there was a 50,000 rebate that would come out to anyone who was to purchase a brand new home. We got an article yesterday and that's dropped. So every week it's dropping, and that's why people are holding off a little bit and seeing what the federal government releases. But now what's been talked about is that it's going to be a 25,000 rebate, plus if you are a first home buyer, you get 10,000 from the state government. So we're not going to really know for sure until they announce this. There's a lot of speculation, but the government has to follow through on this. I think that's the really important thing. Whether it's 50, 25, 35, whatever it is, the government has to follow through. The reason being is because they need to they need to get the economy going again. It creates a lot of jobs. They mentioned in the article with the 50,000 that if there is that 50,000 to new home purchases, there's going to be about 200,000 people with it'll increase jobs for 200,000 people. So that will definitely get the economy rolling again. So whatever it is, they do need to announce something soon for July 1st, which effectively it will start to happen in July 1st, because that's when the new financial year happens. And the reason why they're giving these stimuluses to the residential sector is because it's so resilient. Because at the end of the day, we all need homes to live in, and it's just bricks and mortar is resilient. So just on the next slide, thanks, Boris. So just a recap on the current market. So the market has softened, but it is a lot less than what mainstream media has been talking about. We're seeing about a 5% drop already. I think there'll be another, say, 5 to 15%, depending on the area. But there is no crash prediction, because we're already coming back into the economy. Started again. We've started working again. Schools have started again. We're reopening. So I think what is clear too is, because there's been a lot of hype around different stimulus packages, a lot of people aren't actually making a move, because they're like, well, I'm going to wait for this to come out because I don't want to miss out. So what's actually stopping people from purchasing, which we saw last year too when the election happened? They're not purchasing not because they don't want to purchase and they don't think it's a good idea to purchase, more because it's just the uncertainty of it. So what we really need from our government, which is what we're expecting to hear from the next week, is just some clarity. once there's clarity, once they say this is how we're going to get through it, this is the plan, I think a lot of people will start easing back into buying property. So just the next two slides maybe. Thanks, Boris. Before I go on, Boris, is there any questions? Because that is the first section of my presentation about COVID and the property economy. Is there any questions about what I've just talked about before I start talking about the investor market? All good? Yep. Okay, so I'll keep on going. This is a little tool that we use. Some of you might have already seen it. Some of you know of it already, but I use this for every single property that I am planning to purchase. It's called, one back, Boris. Just one back. That's it. So vacancy rates is really important. And I touched on it in about Perth before, how everything ties into each other. So vacancy rates is the first thing I look at, and I have a look at how many properties are vacant in that particular area. So I use this tool. So if you want to jot down the highlighted webpage, which is sqmresearch.com.au, and then I go to the vacancy rate section. You basically can put in a it's just gone back again, Boris. Yep, that's it. You basically can put in a postcode and it will show you the vacancy rates for the last up to 2005, so the last 15 years. And why I look at this first is I look at the fact that I look at how many properties are available. If there's not that many properties available in that area, that would be a good area to start looking at investing in, because what happens is, especially when there's these stimulus packages coming out, people are going to be renting there and will need to rent a house, and say their lease finishes or something happens in their life where they need a bigger home, whatever happens, they might start looking for a rental property and it'll be hard to find because the vacancy rates are so low. So what I consider as low is anything under 2%. So our healthy average in Australia is about 3%. That means you're in like a metro city, whether it's Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide. 3% is a healthy vacancy rate to look at. Anything under that is an indication of growth. So how we look at it is, if it's under 2%, there's going to be a growth soon, because if it's under 2%, it means that there's no houses out there. So a lot of people will start to try and find a way to start buying their first home in that space, in that 2% space. And what I also look at is basically yields. So if a rental property is going to cost me just as much to on my mortgage as it would cost me if I rented it, a lot of people, first home buyers especially, will start coming into the market. So because it's, they want to have their own home and all those things that we all want. So that is another indication of growth that is set to come. So if the yields are around that 4%, which is if interest rates are 3.5%, and the yield is at 4%, that's a good indication that there's going to be some property growth in the next 6 to 12 months. So I've put this in. This is a standard slide that we've used in every single event that we do. But Boris, can I ask a favor? Can you see everyone? Okay, great. So if you can just, I'm going to ask a question. Is there anyone here that is looking to invest in property? Is there hands up? No? Okay. So I think we'll skip these slides. Sorry. Okay. So, all right, we'll go through this really quickly just based on a couple of people that are looking to buy their first investment property. So this is a little tax simplified graph that I use to explain how the benefits of buying a property and getting the negative gearing working for you. So the example here that we've got is simple numbers, $100,000 that a household income would make, and you roughly, it's not to the dollar, but roughly you would pay $25,000 on tax if you, as a household income, as you and your wife, husband, whatever, made $100,000, you would actually pay $25,000 in tax. So your take home is $75,000, and that's based on the 37% tax bracket, so the 90 to 180. So next slide, thank you. Thanks. Thank you. So if you've got that, if you were to have a rental income, if you purchase a property for $500,000, which shows there next to the 4%, and if you're getting a yield, which is a rental return of 4%, your rental income would roughly be about $20,000. So then, because you're getting an income from your property and you're getting an income from your job, your salary now becomes 120. And this is really simplified. This is very basic, but I do like talking about this because when I first started investing, I was 21 when I bought my first property. No one explained this to me. And I just thought that it's so important to understand it on a simplified version so that you can understand it on a more complicated version too. So just the next slide. So how much can we keep of that? I'll just move this because I can't see it. All right, so expenses. On an interest rate, we just worked this out at 3.9%. Your interest is about 19.5. Then you've got property management fees, landlord and building insurance, and others. So we've calculated roughly for this purpose, this case study alone, that your total expenses to hold that property is about just under $23,000 to hold that property. And the next. So in your income side, which is on the left-hand side, you've got your salary, your property income of $20,000, and your total income will be $120,000. Now the expenses that you have from your property is the expenses, which was $22,700. But this is where the kicker is, and this is depreciation. So let's go back to, can we go forward to one slide, Boris? And then we'll come back to this slide. But if we can go forward to one slide. So depreciation is where the magic happens, because we're not actually paying for the house to depreciate, but we're getting a benefit from it from the government. So depreciation is the depreciation of assets, fixtures and fittings within the house. And you're getting the maximum depreciation when you buy a brand new property, because you can actually claim the whole thing on depreciation. If it's an older property, you can only claim the structure. So if we click on the next slide. So this is an example of a standard house, and this is a great tool to also utilize if you guys want to copy down this calculator. This is a calculator that I use all the time. They're BMTQS. And I've just typed into this one, a standard house. You just go down the columns. It's a residential construction. I always put a medium finish. I don't go, because it's normally investment, so they wouldn't be going high end or anything. I put the square meterage in there, the estimated year of construction, so it'd be 2020 now. Nearest major city, so I put in Melbourne, and oops, that's gone. And the tax bracket that it was on. So I put 37%. So this actually shows how much depreciation you can claim for the next 5 years. So if we go back, Boris, just back to that slide that we were showing the costs, the expenses, that's it. That depreciation, we keyed in that 15,500 into the depreciation section. So the total expenses now becomes 38,200. However, you didn't actually spend 15,000 to get it to look like that. It's just they calculate that the house is losing asset value during that time, during that first year of that amount. And obviously you would get a surveyor to come in and do its depreciation schedule for you, and they would itemize every item like the carpet, the paint, the walls, all that stuff that depreciates in value. So if we could just go forward a couple of slides. Yep. So in this scenario, again, this is super simple. There might be some accountants out there. I've just done this as a general example. You would get a return back of around $7,000. So the tax payable, instead of the $25,000 that we started off with, would be around the $18,000. So it's a huge benefit if you are on that higher salary, if you are on that 30% bracket on tax. Thanks, Boris. And just to my last, this is my last slide and I'll be done. But, and this is where new versus old is so important, because as of 2017, they actually changed the laws that you couldn't actually claim depreciation on fixtures and fittings to older houses. And the effect of that is about a 7,000 drop in the first year that you'll be able to claim back on your tax. So again, there's a lot of benefits of new too, because when you buy brand new, everything's on a warranty. You've got structural guarantees, 6.5 years, depending on the builder. Some builders are actually offering lifetime structural warranties now. So you've got all those things behind you that you're not constantly fixing the property and taking it out of your pocket. So it's really important to invest smart, and that's why we prefer new to old. So that concludes my portion of the presentation. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to ask them.
No, I think we'll save the question and answer for a bit later. Next up, we will have Pauline Ryan. So Pauline Ryan is the director of Loanworks. She's also the founder of Mr. Mentor. So it's a great program. I've actually learned a fair bit from Pauline in our short time of knowing each other. So I'll be handing over the reins to Pauline. She will become the host. Hope you enjoy the presentation from Pauline. Bear with me. Sorry, Pauline, you're on mute.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Boris and Marius. I couldn't agree with you more, Marius, about some of your ideas and some of your ideals. And that's why I really wanted to connect with Boris in the first place. I think we have a good synergy. I am a mortgage broker. I started mortgage broking 20 years ago, and I have a little short 3-minute presentation about my company and how I started. So I need to know if I can share that with everybody. So I'm going to try and share my screen so you can see my presentation. So as I said, I'm not sure if everyone can see it, but I am the CEO and the director of Loanworks, and we have about 30 brokers in our group. About 20 of them are branded Loanworks, and the others are just in our group. As I said, I started mortgage broking 20 years ago when mortgage brokers had approximately 5% of market share. Really pleased to say, after the 20 years of being in the industry and being a part of the industry, I'm proud to say that now we mortgage brokers introduce 55% of all new money to the lenders. This is a huge, huge change. So why has mortgage broking grown and why have we as mortgage brokers been an instrumental part of Australia's property market is quite a story. And I've been proud to be part of that story. So, as I said, I started broking a long time ago. And I tell my husband I still look very young. I'm not sure he agrees, but yeah, I've started a long time ago and seen many changes in our mortgage broking industry. So yeah, I started as a sole broker. And when I started 20 years ago, I was never able to keep up with the demand that I had. So I actually started training other people. You know, I always loved numbers. I always loved family. I always wanted to really help people. So for some reason, I was going to start real estate because I love property as well. But so I think the synergy of property and numbers, you know, it was my niche in life. So as I said, when I started broking, I was never able to keep up. So I started training other brokers, and from there, I've grown our little business called Loanworks. And yeah, we have 20 branded brokers, but we have a lot more people in our group. And I've also founded another company called Mr. Mentor, which trains all the new mortgage brokers in Australia. Where we have quite a market share of training all new mortgage brokers in Australia, and both in a residential market and a commercial market. And I'm pleased to say one of my great colleagues here is Neil Lovis, who is our lead commercial mentor broker. And so, yeah, I'm very pleased to say that we can offer, you know, residential broking and commercial broking. So whatever you need, we have these options, and we have great, amazing brokers that have helped me grow our business by putting our clients first. So I'll just run through our slides. So the first slide is why use us. Here's some of our brokers on here. I'm not sure if you can see that. We have a multitude of brokers from all areas in Melbourne, mainly in Melbourne. As I said, our brokers, we now, mortgage broking, and there's approximately 12,000 mortgage brokers in Australia, and we introduce 55% of all new money. This is a huge fact. And actually, I spoke last year with the assistant treasurer to represent the mortgage broking industry, and said really then at that speech, my speech was basically saying that the consumers have voted for us. Why has the consumer voted for mortgage brokers? Because we've had great corporate governance with ASIC. We can't do this, we can't do that. You know, we are highly regulated, and I think the big thing there that changed our industry was the legislation that came in 2009 that brought in responsible lending. That was a huge game changer for our industry, huge game changer for us, and really got rid of all the riffraff from the mortgage broking industry. And really our numbers are, you know, set to grow and grow and grow. And the banks really have come, along with ASIC and APRA, have really put great processes and systems in place to ensure that we are a sustainable commodity. We are here to stay, and I'm proud to be part of it. We have, and so one of the other reasons why we, the mortgage brokers, have succeeded is because we don't just represent one lender. We have access to, actually, I think it's on my next slide, but I'll show you. We have access to over 30 lenders. And myself, as a mum with 5 children, I know what it's like to get a loan approved. I know how important that is. I know how important it is to get your house. I know how important it is to get your investment property. I understand that, and I really feel for that. And I know what it's like to be declined from a bank. But, you know, as a mortgage broker, we have all these lenders. We have a myriad of lenders that we can, you know, go through your personal situation. And really, as responsible lending suggests, we have to recommend some lenders that are suitable for you. The consumers have again voted for us because when we first started, we were seen as shonky, not competitive enough. We actually gave you the choice that made us the most commission. Well, that is all wrong. The consumers are right. They're not stupid. They know if we are looking after you. And I can tell you, the mortgage broking industry with their corporate governance, their due diligence, their compliance. We are here to stay, and the consumers can feel that we are looking after them. As I say to my mentees, I've actually never advertised once in my life. And that's because my clients know after 20 years, and I'm still dealing with some of my clients from 20 years ago and their children and so forth and so on, that I really do put their needs above everybody else's. And so they refer me to their brother, their sister, and so on. And from that, I've been able to build a great business and train great brokers who really look after their clients. I've gone over that. I can quickly tell you a little bit about our process. Our process is very simple. We have a 4-step process. So if you want to engage one of our Loanworks brokers, all of them will do this. The first thing they'll do is they'll tell you all of the costs involved in a transaction. Whether you want to buy a house, an owner-occupied house, or an investment property, they will tell you how much stamp duty, if there's mortgage insurance, they will tell you a range of actually what the interest rates will be. They will tell you in the first 15 minutes of you meeting with them, how much deposit you need, how much savings you have to have, if you don't have to have any savings, if you have equity, and so on. They will tell you straight away what you need. And they'll also, as I said, I'm a mum. I've got quite a few adult children. I'm a very practical lady. All I want to know is, within 5 minutes, is how much is this going to cost me a month? How much, am I likely to be able to get the loan? Am I likely to be able to buy a house? These are the real key things that people want to know. So we're not time wasters. We're not, we're not out there to, oversell you. We are an educative process. The first step is we go through the costs involved in a transaction. People just love to know, as I said, how much it's going to cost, and can I afford this? Is this cheaper than me renting? Can I borrow a few more dollars off my mum? Can I save a few more dollars? Can I get into that investment property? We're not here, as Marius and Boris are, to tell you about property and what they're going to go up or down. We're here to tell you if you can get the money, how much it's going to cost you, and the likelihood of some lenders that would like to lend to you. As step 2 is, we have 35 lenders, even more, and we will tell you which lenders are going to suit you. Again, as I said, I'm a very practical lady. Some of my children are great savers. Some have had credit defaults. Some have had parking fines. Some have had bad credit reports. We understand all of this, and we know which lenders are going to suit you. The third thing is why we have built a great business as Loanworks is, you're going to get your loan, but we tell you how to make the most of your loan, whether you have an offset account, whether you have a basic loan, whether it's investment property. We also tell you how to structure your loan. You go into a bank, I can tell you most of the banks, and God love them, that's why we as brokers have a great business. We know how for you to structure the loan the best way. We don't want you to give them all your properties. We know how to structure your loans and make you safe. We know how to deal with the banks and how to work with the banks and set you up correctly. And the last thing we do in our 4-step process is we explain in real layman's terms the legalities of the application process. So we explain what you're signing, why you're signing it, what this document is. We are really here to give you a clear and excellent explanation of what the process is and what's involved. So that's our appointment process. Where and how will we meet you? So basically before COVID, maybe because it's a sign of my age, but I never would do a loan for anybody that I hadn't met. So for me, it's really important for me and our brokers to understand what it is you're trying to achieve. Do you want your first home? Do you want your second investment property? What is it you want? We understand. We want to know how you spend. We want to know your savings. We want to know if you're going to buy this house, is it going to be affordable for you? We really want to understand your short-term goals, your long-term goals. We really want to listen to you. And I think that listening from us has really enhanced our process and really helps us deliver to you, our clients. So we meet you at your home, your office, your workplace. We have an office in the city opposite beautiful Flagstaff Gardens, the corner of Jeffcott and King Street, just down from Latrobe Street. And, you know, as technology has advanced, we can do Zoom or Skype meetings. But if you want to use one of our brokers, we are not going to meet you for 5 minutes and give you all the answers. As I said, we take a 45-minute process, one-on-one with you. We need to understand your goals, what it is you're looking for. If we can't help you, we'll tell you. And again, I've built a business and taught all our mentees how to, you know, grow a business by just telling someone, well, you need to save another 10 grand, or you need to do this, or you need to, you know, it's the problems with your credit report, or this, or whatever. We can help you with that. We really have grown our business from looking after our clients and giving them helpful information and great credit advice. How long will it take? Our appointment takes, as I said, roughly 45 minutes. We've got due process to go through. We have compliance rules to follow. We try and do this in a friendly and caring way, but we really can guarantee you that we will listen to you, to what you need. We have access to all the lenders, and certainly will recommend the loans that are suitable for you. We don't charge brokerage on any residential loans, but we do on commercial loans, and Neil, my colleague, can explain that if anyone has any questions, but we can help you with business loans, commercial loans, asset finance, equipment finance, whatever it is you need. Even if you don't know what you need, we can help you with that, and we can recommend some products. I assure you, we're the least pushiest people you'll ever meet in life. It doesn't cost you anything to use us, see us. We will spend the time with you. And again, as I said, I've built a business by just giving people information. And as I said, I haven't been able to keep up with the demand we've had, because I know our process works. I know our process is right, and I know our process delivers. So if you want an appointment with us, you can contact me. You can go to our website, Loanworks, for a residential or commercial loan, and I assure you, you are in very, very good hands. How to contact us? My mobile's there. My name's Pauline Ryan. I'm known throughout the industry. And you can contact us through loanworks.com.au. So thank you so much for the opportunity to chat to you this evening for a few minutes. I know I'm now not allowed to talk too long. If anyone, I believe Boris has told me there are some mortgage brokers here. If you're looking to grow your commercial business, or you want to expand your business, I assure you we've got a great program there as well. So thank you so much for everyone, your time and listening. I think just to finish off, I'm very proud to live in Australia. What a great place we live in. I think our corporate governance, our land mass, our population mass is a fact all on its own. As I said, I'm not allowed to tell you what's going to happen to property prices, but our corporate governance is just outstanding. And yeah, I'm glad I live in Australia, and I'm glad to have been part of the mortgage broking industry. And if I can help any one of you, or one of our brokers can help any one of you, it would be our absolute pleasure to do so. So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, or if you want to have any commercial queries, we've got the, we can answer all your queries. Thank you so much, Boris and Marius. So I finished talking. Is that okay? So should I unmute everyone? Unmute, yeah. So who's the host now? You mean you want me to talk more? I think, Boris, you probably need to take back the hosting lead. Oh, okay. Hi.
Hey, Colleen, if you can make me the host, that's all.
Okay, so how do I do that? Make host. Got it? Got it. Sorry. So sorry. You got it?
You made Mary Chris the host.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to make you the host. I can't see you. Sorry. Sorry, I've lost you. Hang on. Still lost you?
So Pauline, if you look at the abundance property,
Oh yeah, got it.
yeah.
No, I'm clicking on it. So
I did it.
oh, you've done it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for that.
That's okay.
All right, technical glitches, love it. Thank you so much for that. So look, obviously we've gone through some detailed information. I guess the idea behind today's presentation also to explain a little bit about what's happening out there, some of the tools that we're using. I will be sending through everyone who's joined in a range of different tools that we utilize ourselves as part of our research that we do to help our clients to be able to. It's what we use for our own property research. It's what we do for our own clients. But anyone here, more than happy for you guys to utilize the same tools. So that way you'll actually have the ability to find great property for yourself, check out what's going out in the market now. I guess with most things that you need to do is get your finances right. That's why people like Pauline is so important. In essence, if you're not understanding how much you can spend, I love opening the door of a Mercedes-Benz car, but if all I can afford is a Toyota, there's no point you're going for a test drive, if you know what I mean. So definitely very important, get your finance right. In terms of property market information, if you guys are happy to receive our newsletter, just sign up to it. It's on our website, or you can send me an email. I've emailed a lot of you multiple times. So if you want to get a new newsletter, follow our social media platforms. We've got Instagram, Facebook. We share a lot of information there. For us, it's just about building a community. We just want to be able to help everyone as much as we can. So for the next part of it, it is an opportunity for some Q&A. Now, not everyone that's on actually has their video showing, so I can't actually see people putting up their hands, so I know to unmute them. So I'll give you guys a couple of seconds. If you can show your video, and then that way I'll be able to see if you do have a question.
Or even just chuck it in the chat.
Or put in the chat. If you've got a question, I'll unmute you. So let's go with anyone with your hand up first. All right, Winston. Okay.
Hi, Boris. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So firstly, guys, thank you very much for the presentation. Actually, it was very, very useful, actually. One of the reasons why I've joined today, because I am investing sometime in the future, sooner than later, actually. And I have been deciding between old versus new. So one of the questions I had is, you did mention about the $7,000 rebate based on the numbers you calculated for year one. Would that be the same for year two or year three, or is it just that rebate for year one?
So I guess I'll jump in for that. Hi, Winston. Yes, so it will drop. The highest, the most depreciation that you're going to get is in the first 10 years of a property. So every year it will drop, and you can jump on that website with the calculator that will show each year dropping. But the first year is the highest amount. So that $15,500 would be the highest amount that would occur on year one, but that will drop a little bit more each year. The whole new versus old is also the fact that you can't actually claim the fixtures and fittings in an old property. You can only claim the structure, which actually, it's actually more than half the rebate that you'll get back if you were to buy a older property. some people still want to buy an old property, knock it down and put townhouses. That is an option. If you did put townhouses on it, depreciation will occur on that new structure. But the old structure will only be able to claim the structure side of the depreciation.
Perfect. So does anyone have, actually I do have a question here. So this one's from Catherine. So Catherine Belford, absolutely awesome person as well. We'll actually have Catherine on in a future event to talk as well. So she's got some amazing content, especially for the females that are here. So what we'll do, I'll ask the next question in regards to, do you feel there is a ceiling in the market? And this is obviously for both Marie-Chris and also Pauline to jump in if you've got any commentary around that.
Pauline, you want to go first?
Do we think there's a ceiling in the market with where property prices are going to go, or is that?
I guess the question is, does Catherine feel that there is a ceiling in the market in terms of how much higher growth can go?
That's probably not a question for me. I can talk about lending, what the lenders are doing and how some of them are running under the table. Some of them are, taking off rental income because of COVID. Some of them are helping you if you've got a job seeker job. I can tell you all about that. But the value of property is really out of my scope. The only thing I'm prepared to say about property is that we live in Australia, our population to our land mass is very small globally. Our corporate governance is good. That's as much as I can say about property prices. Yeah, that's probably not my area of expertise.
No, absolutely fine. So what we'll do is we'll throw to Marie-Chris and she can jump in with this one.
Look, it seems crazy when we talk about, property prices doubling every 10 years. So it means if the median house price of Melbourne right now is 900,000, effectively that whole theory means that median house prices will be 1.8 in 2030. As ridiculous as that sounds, it's not far off, because I remember when I bought my first home, this is back in early 2000s. I was 21 when I bought my first home, and I bought it for 250,000. And I thought that was, paying that off for 30 years was just beyond me. Like, I just thought, how am I going to be stuck to this house? But now that house is worth about the 650 mark now. So when I used to think 250 was a lot, now it doesn't seem like that much in the grand scheme of things. So even property prices being $1 million seemed like a lot, 10, 20 years ago, but now it seems like the normal. And so to answer that question, I just feel, in history, it hasn't just based on inflation. Things just keep on going up, and it will become our new normal.
All right, great. So next question we've got here. Actually, anyone with their hands up? Nope. Okay. So Kartik, very insightful. Thank you, guys. Would like to know, what is Abundance's process of finding a suitable property for someone?
Maybe Boris can answer that question.
Okay, so sorry to Boris. Look, I guess that's my specialty in terms of my input with Abundance Property. So in essence, what we do, we have a number of tools that we utilize. If I was to, I guess there's probably about 6 different tools that we go through. So I'll go through a step-by-step process. A suitable property is based on what a client's needs are. Some people want to buy a property to live in. Some people want to buy a property that will grow over time. Some people want to buy a property that will return an investment to sell over a number of years. Others are looking for a second income via positively geared property, meaning there's no money out of their own pocket. It pays for itself and then some. So in order to be able to find the suitable property, we actually do spend probably over the space of about 2 hours getting to know someone's situation. I guess that's where the experts who we've invited along to an event like this now jump in, is because we don't know your situation. what is a suitable property? We can show you great property that we would invest in, but we're not going to know what a suitable property based on your specific needs are going to be in terms of what are your retirement needs, what are your short-term needs, and what your goals are. We do use tools, and those tools are, and I'll actually share them afterwards, but we do use RP data, for example. It's fantastic for us to be able to understand what the property prices are. So is it a great property, meaning is it well priced? Okay, great. Let's look at all of the properties that have been sold in that area, look at other developments that are happening in that area, and we look at the infrastructure. So is it a great property? Well, if infrastructure is being invested into in the area, it's going to grow. That's a great property to us, okay? Then if we look at a future growth of a property, what we're looking into is in terms of somebody being able to, I mean, generally, if you look at most of the stuff that we're involved in, we don't actually deal with anything too close to the city. Probably 20 Ks is the closest to the city and out. So for future growth, we're looking at the outer suburbs of the west, the north, and the southeast, all in the growth corridors. So a great property is one that's going to grow in value that will actually, in actual fact, grow enough that you can actually go and buy a second investment property out of the equity you've made in that one. And our mantra has always been, if we haven't made you enough equity in 18 months from the property you bought from us, then we failed. So that's actually how we look at our investment strategies and being able to help you. All right, so hopefully that gives you some, but I will send some tools through that we use. I can share the screen, but as you can imagine, this is the first time I'm doing it, I'm going to end up.
I guess just to add, sorry to interrupt, but just to add to that question is that we do have access. So my background, I was an architect. I was in architecture, so my background is building. We have about 350 different developers and builders that we use all around Australia, so we can access stock that suits your needs. And look, we're really picky about what we present to our clients from those developers, because I want to be able to think, would I buy this? Because is this a good investment strategy long term, so that you can see that return on investment straight away. So obviously we don't have a crystal ball. We can only use the tools that we have, like SQM research, looking at yields. We can just add all those things together, but we're making the most educated decision when we present property to our clients.
Great. Now we have another question from Carl. So this one is for Pauline. Pauline, fixed or variable in this current market to say 6 months' time?
For the term of 6 months? Okay.
So I'll get Carl to clarify it, but I'll just repeat the question is fixed or variable in this current climate to say 6 months' time?
Okay. Those that know me know everyone in my office. I bet a bottle of champagne that rates for the last 5 years were going to come down. So I've won quite a lot of bottles of champagne, and probably one of the only ones that predicted that the rates were going to drop, because I feel that we're part of a global market now. We're not an insulated Australia. We're on the world market now. I don't know what's going to happen with COVID, and interest rates are they're the lowest they've ever been. And I actually hate fixed rate loans personally, but now the banks are and my clients go, and over the last 20 years, I go, no, you can fix it for 1 year. I'll let you fix it for 1 year, no more. Do you know what I mean? So I have a real aversion to fixed rate loans. Given that, under responsible lending, if someone says, no, I need to know what the repayments are, okay, you can have a fixed rate loan. So we have to recommend a fixed rate loan if that's their requirement. But now we've got fixed rate loans with 2.19. I mean, this is just crazy, 1 and 2 years. And we had a great argument, and Neil can attest to this last week. We have a broker chat for 1 hour. And this is my favorite topic, fixed rate loans. And they're going, oh, no, we're going to go to negative interest rates. You've got to let them go to fixed rates now. At the moment, I'm still in a quandary whether to go variable or fixed. My thing is, you can go for a fixed rate loan if you think that it's going to be better than, I definitely wouldn't go long term. No way would I go long term. That's my theory. That's my personal preference. And I think over the 20 years, variable rates have won out way more than fixed rates. And I think the banks, which I say to my mentees, is the banks actually have thousands and thousands of people looking at the money out there. They have teams and teams looking at trying to get you sucked into a fixed rate. Do you know what I mean? So I shouldn't say sucked into a fixed rate, but the banks are about making money. They are about making money. They do their research. They understand the money markets far better than I. And they are in the business of making money. So, you know, whether that can be a component of making money, that can be a component of making you sticky as well. So in our experience too, from the industry, the biggest complaints from the consumer that the External Complaints Commission gets, or the Ombudsman gets, is that from fixed rates. Because if you go into a fixed rate, and the average term of any loan historically is 3 years. In that 3 years, we see someone need to sell their house, someone get divorced, someone need a bit extra money. And so they're so locked in with fixed rate loans. And even during COVID, the banks, they want their loss. If you go for a fixed rate loan and you break that contract, they definitely come after you for hammer and tong for every fixed rate economic break cost. So if you're going to go into a fixed rate, make sure it's a very, very sharp rate. Make sure you can pay extra off it, or make sure you have some variable component, and make sure you understand that if rates drop further, you probably will most likely be up for a huge economic break costs. So much so now that if any one of our clients go for a fixed rate loan, they have to sign a one-page disclaimer. Well, I told you this, that, this, that, this, that. I'm not saying don't go for a fixed rate, but if you go for a fixed rate loan, make sure you understand what you're getting into. I hope that answers that. And as you can tell, I don't like fixed rate loans. So yeah, there you go. That's my personal opinion.
That's absolutely awesome. So now we do have another question. The next one is Catherine Belford again. So when purchasing new homes, the land size is very small nowadays, and usually values of property are appreciating based on land. Depreciation is a great advantage of a new property. However, from a growth perspective, I just realized this is a question. Oh no, it is. Of growth perspective, are older properties better on more land? So this one's going to be for Murray Chris. So to sum that the question up, so Catherine's just double checking with you. Are we looking at the growth value of the land, or are we looking at the house and land, and obviously to do with the depreciation? So I'll throw this one to you.
So I can really just talk about my opinion in this this kind of scenario with bigger land versus new, smaller land. I think it's a matter of what you plan to do with that property long term. So if there is availability to potentially develop on that property, yeah, I think it's a good option to have, to buy a bigger block of land. But a lot of people have this love affair with the size of the land, thinking I'm going to do a development on it, or I'm going to utilize that land, and they actually don't ever do it. So my opinion is, I think you have to look at it as a bigger picture. It is hard to develop. It's not an easy task to do. And in the first year or two, you're not always making your money back. So that's what I would ask a person who was planning to do that. So if there was any predictions of developing on it, yes, I would. But if you just want to buy something and set and forget and leave it there and have renters in, I think the new with a smaller block of land is a really good option, and they are growing just as much. I mean, just the other day we settled on a property. It was a small lot housing code, so it fell under the small lot housing code, which means that the block of land is under 300 square meters. So a very small block of land, but it still fit 3 bedrooms and a garage, and so 2 garages. 2 garages, 3 bedrooms, and 2 bathrooms. So everything what a small family would need. That client purchased the land for $200,000 back in, it would have been 2018. They only built the house this year and only finished this year. So their whole package, what they forked out was $400,000. And based on comparable prices right now, we actually did a report for them, or a property report for them, and the same size block of land, so 300,000 or under, with the same specs of the house, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2 garage. The cheapest one has sold for 510. So effectively, they've already made 110,000 in equity if they were to sell it on the market now. So, and that's a small block of land. So you're still going to be getting that growth in a new home, even if it is a small block of land. But if you are planning to, say, knock out the house, build 3 townhouses and maximize it that way, it's definitely a good option to have. I think it's just a good point to engage people like buyers advocates at the beginning to see if you can actually do that, because not all councils, every council has their own rules. So it's important to look at that before you put in that investment. Hopefully that answers that question. Yeah.
Sure thing. So now Partha's asking a question in regards to investment property. So can you tell us what direction rents are trending?
Yep. So based on same thing as what I mentioned before, I had a quick look at SQM research the last couple of days, and the vacancy rates have gone up a little bit, 1%. On the areas that I've been looking at. However, there hasn't been a show of rents actually dropping in price. Well, not yet, at least. We'll know more as the year goes on how that affects rents. But like, for instance, I can only tell you real time what's going on. We've got a property management business too, that we listed a house, a brand new home, and we put it online today. It just went on realestate.com today, and even with the restrictions of how many people are allowed to come into an open home, this Saturday we've got an open home happening. There's already 7 inquiries within 2 hours of that property coming up online, and that property was in Clyde North. So it's not like a major city area. It's not like it's 50K out of the city. So people are still needing homes. And I guess that's all I can say about that in terms of what our experience is right now. We're still getting plenty of inquiries, and I don't think that one's going to go vacant for very long.
All right, awesome. We have a question from Billy. So Billy, at what stage do you engage a developer? Is it when they are already have approvals? And if rental income is too low, it can be too difficult to increase too steeply in the future if it goes above 3%. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'll answer it part by part. So at what stage do we engage the developer? We have relationships with the developers even before they're going to build the homes. So there's a developer that just comes to mind right now that we've had a relationship with them for the last 3 years. They're obviously looking ahead. Like a year ago, they were saying that they were going to build some properties out in Carrum Downs and in Clyde North. And so they tell us about that. So we've had really good, strong relationships with different developers. So how we engage them, we just have relationships with them, just like we have relationship with you guys. We see what they've got on the books coming up, because obviously they still have to go through the planning process and get it through council, get building, engage a builder, do all of that stuff. So it might be, a year or 2 before they actually even hit the ground with construction, but we would know about that property way before they even hit the ground. So in terms of approvals, we don't really present a property unless it has been approved. If it's say a townhouse development where they're selling townhouses. We don't present a property unless there's approvals. And if in terms of, say, land that hasn't titled, we tend to only look at land that is titling in the next 6 months or is titled, because at the end of the day, you don't want to just be sitting there with this untitled block of land. You sign build contracts, and you don't know when that land is going to title. And we've had it a lot in the past where we'd go ahead and do that, and it takes years for a land to title. So now we've just said if it's 6 months or more, we don't even touch it. We don't even present it to our clients. But we prefer the ones that are obviously titled, so we can start getting it done. And if rental income is too low, it can be difficult to increase too steeply in the future if it goes above 3%. So right now, rental, like I said, income hasn't changed. I think a good thing to do now, and even now, if you're starting to look for property, if you're starting to speak to developers yourself, it's a good thing to start trying to see if you can get rental guarantees. Developers are a lot more wanting to negotiate right now. Maybe 2-3 years ago they weren't, but rental guarantees means that you buy the property and the developer throws in a guarantee saying for the first 12 months, 24 months, we guarantee that we're going to give you an income of, say, 4 or 5%. I think that's going to start coming back into the market a lot more as the landscape changes. It was happening maybe 4 years ago. They used to do it a lot. They do it a lot on apartments because obviously apartments are a different product than a house and land. Their growth isn't as quick. So a lot of the time to get people to purchase it, they'll throw in a rental guarantee. But I feel that we'll start seeing that a lot more in the house and land and the townhouse sector too. I guess in terms of increases to rent, yeah, you're right. We can't increase it. It's just not fair, especially right now where a lot of the laws are really for the tenant. The REIV just released a whole list of, I think, 100 rules again this week or last week, basically allowing pets. You can't actually you can't say no to pets anymore. So that's is effective. So yeah, it is changing all the time. I think it's really important to purchase right. And this is why we're really big on looking at vacancy rates before we present an area. And we're really big at looking at rental yields before we present an area, because we want to be in the best position possible so that even if the market drops a little bit, it's not as much as what it could have been in other areas. So it's always important to buy right and do your research.
Great work. So Brett's got a great question here. So what effect do you think that commercial vacancy rates will have on overall property valuations? Will we see a demand trend towards more regional or lifestyle properties given more and more people are working from home?
Yeah, good point. I mean, it's proven that we can do it, right? Like it's showing that, and this is something that I actually talked to Boris about. It's going to be interesting how a lot of office spaces and commercial spaces might be less and less, needed for even bigger companies or smaller companies. That's just my opinion. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what will happen with that, with the commercial side of things. But in terms of the regional, we still have if you are a first home buyer in Victoria, if you purchase in regional areas of Victoria, you get a double the first home buyer grant. So you don't get just 10, you get 20. So the government's always trying to encourage that move to regions, and it's interesting because Ballarat had it was just in the paper. I briefly saw it a couple of days ago where Ballarat has actually had a huge increase this 2020, and we actually knew that would happen. We were predicting that would happen even 12 months ago, that there would be a surging increase in Ballarat. So that's already starting to show even during COVID.
All right, awesome. So that's the question we've got in the chat box. So if there's anyone, I can see a few, obviously a lot of faces here. Do you guys have any questions? If you do, put your hand up. I'll put you on the video. You guys can speak directly with Pauline, with Mary Chris, with myself, and you can add something there. Does anyone on this chat have a question? Winston's looking in deep thought. Nope, it looks like we're run out. I will, okay, let me just go back. So look, I guess we're actually finishing on time, so this is awesome. Look, over the course, this is our first time doing a live webinar. We do look forward to seeing you at an actual live event. At a live event, it is, I mean, we can be as interactive as we can be, and we obviously love connecting with everyone as much as we can. In essence, we'll be inviting you along to all of our upcoming events that we're doing. If you want to sign up to the newsletter, feel free to reach out. I'll sign you up, and you'll just get, I guess, regular updates about what we're doing. For us, it's about sharing. What we're wanting to do is to be able to share the information that we've learned and what we're learning out in the market. I guess the difference here is that we're not presenting information that you're just getting from realestate.com or wherever it is that you normally get information. This is us out there and actually digging in the ground and finding out what's going on, as opposed to just giving you secondhand information, what the mainstream media shows. And so I guess with us, we're wanting to present that information. There's a great reason for it. We love connecting with our clients. We love seeing positive results and overall, and obviously, you know, the amount of people, just to give you guys a number, I wasn't going to share it earlier, but we have 48 people on this live stream. To give you an idea, last night at about, I think it was probably about 6 o'clock, I looked at how many people were coming, and the difference between how many people were coming and to the amount of people that actually came is really surprising. So I do appreciate everyone taking the time out of their night to spend 90 minutes with us to learn about us. We're going to go into more detail. This was basically an introductory presentation, but we're going to go into more detail and really narrow in on specific areas of things. So we present concepts on how to invest better, how to find the right sort of property. I am going to send through some tools. So send through, if you're interested in it, just send me an email or a private message and say, yep, I'm interested in it. I'll send you an email with the stuff that we use so you can use it for yourself. We've got a lot of experts that we're wanting to connect with, and there's a lot of them that are on this live stream today, who we're wanting to make sure that you're looked after. If there is any questions that you have, if there's something specific, if we don't know the answer, the whole idea is that you are speaking to an expert and not just us giving what we think or what we might have as an opinion. Our idea is that we're able to help you in terms of being able to achieve the results that you want, and we do have a pretty quick turnaround in terms of the results and how quickly you see them. So look, feel free to reach out to us. More than happy to chat with all of you with anything moving forward. We'll have expert speakers. A few of them are on here today. So, I mean, I mentioned Catherine before. She'll definitely be our next speaker coming up. Partha's got an amazing story as well. He'll be definitely one of our speakers. And if anyone's got some content that they want to share, feel free. I'm going to be building this up so that we can do live streams, but I am going to be doing live events as well. So just sharing the information around. Obviously, it's a quick 90-minute refresher on everything that's been going on, but we will continue to obviously keep bringing out the information as we go. So I do want to say thank you so much to everyone here. I'll share the screen of what I could see. I'm really proud of everyone that's come along here and appreciate it. So I'll throw to Mary Chris and to Pauline as well.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much, Boris and Marius. Well done.
Okay, awesome. Great. No worries. Well, I really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much for jumping on here today. We'll keep in touch. We'll actually post a copy of this video. So if it did go a bit quick, or if there is some further information that you're wanting, you'll be able to see a replay of this as well. We'll keep you up to date with further what's going on. And if you have any feedback, feel free, please reach out to us. Let us know. What do we do well? What can we improve on? What did you take away from it? Because, you know, in order for us to improve the content and the sessions, we need to know. And we like positive feedback. Honest feedback. It doesn't always have to be, yeah, thumbs up, great work. We actually do like to hear when you go, no, you know what, this is information we needed. I wish I had more of that, or something that you're looking at doing yourself. So feel free to reach out. Looking forward to chatting with each and every one of you again. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Boris.
Okay, see it. If you can see me, I'm waving back.